When I'm not feeling really thankful for being reminded hundreds of times to not look directly into the sun, because you know that's something I would normally do, I like to answer questions that I get on YouTube. So let's get to it. What is your favorite band? So I think I've answered this before. Radiohead is my favorite band. Sometimes that switches spots with Muse. But top five, let's do a top five. Radiohead, Muse, Queens of the Stone Age, Soundgarden, Led Zeppelin, sometimes Tool and Zeppelin switch. Now, I don't count Elliott Smith as a band. I count him as a dude. For some reason, that's different to me. I also don't count Jimi Hendrix as a band. I think of him as just a dude for the same reason, which is super disrespectful to like Mitch Mitchell and Noel Redding and the Band of Gypsies in them, but I don't know. That's just how I have it organized in my mind. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but that is probably my top five right now. Again, some of those spots might be up for grabs. We'll see. Now, my least favorite top five bands would be Kiss, Rob Thomas, Creed, Matchbox 20, and Carlos Santana featuring Rob Thomas. Stop talking and play the guitar and quit dressing like people's dads. Well, come on, man. How am I supposed to dress? I guess I could be more like modern and wear like neon sleeveless shirts and like snapback hats, but I don't know, man. I guess my dad wardrobe is strong these days. Great lesson. Thanks a ton for all you've given to us folks, but could you please clarify why you use shapes from the E minor pentatonic scale as well as the A minor pentatonic scale? Although we're in the E minor scale, shouldn't we be using only the E minor scale? This is pretty confusing for me. Really good question, and I think I'm going to do a standalone video on this soon, but as a preview, in any minor scale, there exists 3 minor pentatonic scales. So when you look at like the E minor scale, something like that, which is in the key of G, which has 3 minor chords, which are the 2, 3, and 6, which in the key of G, that would be A minor, B minor, and E minor. Any of those minor chords, you can use the minor pentatonic scale over, or that shape over. So I'm probably going to do a lesson on this standalone lesson with graphics, I've decided. So look out for that coming soon. I'm getting pretty excited about these graphics. Hey Sean, love your QA series. What is your opinion on downer pedals specifically and cheap pedals in general? Thanks and keep up the good work. So if you've never heard of downer pedals, they're like just really inexpensive Chinese-made guitar effect pedals that are super small, so they're easy to kind of like put on a pedal board, and like you can get them for like 30 bucks on Amazon or other places. The only one I've really tried is the yellow fall delay pedal, which I have a video on my channel kind of reviewing it, and it sounded awesome. It sounded absolutely awesome. I kind of put that side by side with the MXR carbon copy I had at the time, and honestly, there wasn't that big of a difference. Now, the difference really comes in the quality of the build. So I haven't really used that pedal a lot, so I can't tell how it's held up over time. Now, the MXR carbon copy I've had for like 8 years, and nothing has ever been wrong with it. The other thing about it is the downer pedals have this like plastic casing. So let's say you're gigging with it or you're like bringing it all over the place on a pedal board. If you knock it into something, it'll probably just like be crushed and just smashed. So that is kind of like one of the trade-offs that you get with going with like a cheaper Chinese manufactured pedal, is that maybe the quality of the components aren't that good. But if you're just looking to get into delay pedals or something like that, it could be a cool place to start. That is why, whether you love them or hate them, like Boss pedals, those things are tanks. Like you could literally drop those out of a building, run over them with a car or whatever, and like those things like just never seem to break. They're just fortresses of guitar effects. So I think the durability is the main thing when it comes to comparing those pedals to some of the ones that are a little bit more expensive. Now again, you know, when it comes to like comparing that to like a Strymon Timeline or that Walrus Audio ARP87, then yeah, those definitely sound better for sure than the downer ones. But as far as just like if you just want a delay pedal or a chorus pedal or the other ones that they make, the downer pedals seem to be pretty decent. So if you have more experience with those, definitely leave something in the comments to help people out, because like I said, I've just played that delay pedal, worked fine for me, so that's really the only first-hand experience that I have. Sean, I'm just getting into theory, so I was wondering if you can help me out here. When I think of the 5, I think of it being harmonically equal to the 1. Then I think of the 4 chord as being one step away harmonically from the 5, and so on down the line until you get to the 7, the least harmonic of all. Basically, my question is, do we find dissonance interesting only because we're so used to the peace and tranquility of harmony that we actually crave conflict, not just in music, but in life in general? Because let's face it, perfect harmony can get pretty boring if that's all we ever listen to. Thanks. What a deep question, Joey. My goodness. So I guess really, just to paraphrase, like, do we enjoy dissonance in music just because it's something that is not harmonious and it's just kind of something different? And I think the answer to that question just kind of depends on why you listen to music in general. Kind of like I talked about before, one of my favorite bands, Radiohead, is because they do things a lot differently than the arrangement of other rock bands. And, you know, a lot of that has to do with dissonance, and I think a lot of that is just kind of creativity. I think that dissonance and creativity can kind of be interchangeable to a certain extent in music, but then you can get into like fusion jazz type stuff where it's just almost like all dissonance like all the time, or even kind of like modern classical music, which is solely based around dissonance seemingly, which I think there's definitely like a line that you can cross, and it's just like, this isn't like fun to even like listen to at all. So for me personally, when it comes to the arrangement of music, I think it's not so much dissonance, it's just creatively doing something different, which a lot of times can lead to dissonance. And again, dissonance just being kind of like notes that maybe like don't sound good together by, you know, the diatonic, like pretty major scale, minor scale stuff that we're usually used to. Now again, like I said, just when it comes down to how you listen to music, maybe you don't even like dissonance at all. A lot of people just can't stand it, and that's fine, and there's nothing wrong with that, especially when it comes to listening to music is kind of like a storytelling device too. Like, I really dig stuff that is kind of like a creatively told story that is using just like the same chords and the same progressions and the same production styles that other songs have been written and produced in, but they're telling us something new, which is why I really can't stand modern pop music, because it seems like the storytelling isn't new, the music isn't new, it's all kind of cookie cutter, very repetitive. But, you know, I'm not alone on that. Some people like it. I guess the thing to kind of like take from modern pop music is the production elements and maybe some of like the, you know, I guess like the modern kind of synthy type sound people might be jamming on. So that's cool. But yeah, I definitely think that the strive for dissonance is probably psychologically just to kind of like get something different, or to hear something wrong all of a sudden that can kind of keep your attention. What do you think of Tom Morello as a guitarist? So Tom Morello, if you don't know, is most famously the guitar player for Rage Against the Machine, also Audioslave, and he also has some solo stuff too. I really think that he was an important guitar player for me when I was learning, because Rage was probably at their peak right when I picked up guitar, and some of those riffs were awesome. I think he's one of those guitar players that just like gets it. Never really does anything too much when it comes to like the riffing nature and the composition of those songs, even with Audioslave 2. Now, to be fair, especially with some of the Audioslave things, some of the weird noises and like the scratchy guitar stuff that he did, I was kind of out on. It's almost like, it almost seemed to get to a point with Tom Morello near like, I was thinking specifically like the later Audioslave stuff where like, it would be time for a guitar solo, and you could just like expect just to hear some nonsense noise going on, and it's Morello just scratching using whatever array of pedals he kind of had at his disposal. Which again, that wasn't really my favorite type thing, but definitely huge Rage Against the Machine fan. So definitely a cool guitar player. He had the power of the riff, which I totally appreciate, and I hope that I don't think we've heard the last from him. So for listening homework, let's throw you to some of my favorite Rage Against the Machine tracks, because it's always a good idea to make America rage again. And if you have any questions or comments, hit me up in the comment section, Instagram, Twitter, or the website, and I'll talk to you all soon. Thanks a lot.